I laughed, I cried, I hurled. I watched my first Eurovision this weekend, and I have so many thoughts about the importance of spectacle. So many artists feel icky about promoting themselves or making a big spectacle, making a big deal about their art. I don't think that you should have to feel like that, and I have a really good reason why that I want to tell you all about today. The Eurovision contest is spectacle defined. It's watched by millions of people around the world, and with good reason. It's fun as hell. It is a wild time. I had no idea what I was in for going into this, but I am absolutely hooked. It's kind of a songwriting contest, and as someone who has put on his own songwriting contest, I was naturally a bit curious. Was it cooler than mine? Did they have a gong? And I discovered very quickly that no, they did not have a gong, but it was quite a bit more popular than my contest. However, my prizes were kind of cooler. All they actually get is a glass trophy and no money. I gave away amps and guitars and pedals. These are the criteria on which they actually are told to judge the songs. Composition and originality of the song, the quality of the performance on stage, the vocal capacity of the performers, and the overall impression of the act. So it's a combination songwriting, singing, and performing contest. When you break it down, this is kind of what most people are probably doing, and they definitely don't even realize it. The production is so insane and over the top. It all looks amazing. They've got huge video screens that move around. Some of them had like crazy choreographed dances. Some of them were more like a rock band, but they were all incredibly fun to watch. Let's look at a couple of these performances. Look at that. Windows 95, man. This band being in Eurovision is proof that Germany is fucking up by not sending Electric Callboy to absolutely dominate this contest. Same exact vibe, but just not as good. Let's go! So this is Cyprus. They had my favorite song of the contest. They did not win. They did not come even close. Britain went ham. Man's crawling on the ceiling. Like she is exercising the fucking demon. Holy hell. Crazy. The world watches Eurovision. It's basically the Super Bowl of pop music. It's not just the performances that are on stage. It's the drama, the agony, the ecstasy, the ups, the downs, the whole package. And that's what makes it so fun to watch. It's good TV. Way better than American Idol. But one thing that pretty much all of them had in common is that they were going very, very hard on the entertainment value. And I've been thinking about that a lot because some people don't like the sort of gimmicky performance thing, big production, but I love it. I think bands like Ghost and Slipknot and like other bands that put on big crazy shows are fun as hell. There's a reason they're extremely popular, and I don't think it has to be gimmicky for you to put on a big, amazing presentation around your music. I've heard people, especially in like rock and metal, say this thing. Actually, people in my bands have said this before. They say like, oh, but I want to let the music speak for itself. But that's bullshit, because the music is only going to speak for itself if people listen to it. And people are only going to listen to it if they find out about it. One thing that it shines a light on is the fact that music is not a meritocracy. It isn't actually a songwriting competition. You can't just write the greatest song ever and then expect to become famous and successful and for people to like you. it's actually a lot closer to these 4 criteria that Eurovision has set in place for people to vote on. When I'm writing music and recording it, I'm an artist. When I'm on stage, I'm an entertainer. It's obviously not quite that cut and dry. There's still some art taking place on stage, but I am in entertainer mode, just like I am right now, right? I'm gesturing a lot. I'm talking a certain way. The information isn't changing. The presentation is. If people didn't want a show, they'd stay home and listen to you on Spotify. You should do your best to give them a show, because you don't like or dislike an artist based solely on their music. You take in the whole image of the artist, not just the look, but the artwork on the album, the way that they act, the way that their show is. And the fact is that even if you're not going crazy on your show or your look or anything like that, you are still making a choice about how you're presenting yourself and your music to the people who are listening to it and seeing you. Obviously, you've heard me say many times, songs are the most important thing. They're number one. And that's true, because without the song, none of this happens. You can't dance to no beat on stage and just have a cool light show. Like, that's not interesting or cool. All of this is an extension of the song. It's an extension of the words that the songwriters have written, the sound, the feeling. It all creates a complete picture of the artist's intention. It's the packaging, it's the plating. If you've ever paid too much for fancy, expensive food, then you've probably seen some very nice, pretty plating of not enough to eat. And it's kind of like that. Your song might be great, but you still have to package it. You have to present it in a certain way to people. And all of this is kind of summed up in the 4th bit of criteria that Eurovision gives people about voting, which is just overall impression of the act. And that's something that you really need to think about as an artist. What is the overall impression that people are getting? Like, if you were to hear a song from a band on the radio and then see their music video and they didn't match in any way and it wasn't like some intentional contrast, you might get the wrong overall impression of the band, and then they're not going to sell any CDs to you. Last week I did a video about Slipknot, who are a band that I don't really listen to for fun all that often, but I've seen them play a couple times, and the overall impression of the band is incredible. Like, the spectacle of the show, 9 dudes on stage, is amazing. The look, the fire, even though I'm not like necessarily putting them on my playlist. Same thing with Rammstein, who I'm like very lukewarm about. They're basically like a heavy disco band. They put on the single greatest show I've ever seen in my life. So much fire. Their presentation changed the entire impression that I had of them. If I'm checking out your band, I'm taking all of this stuff into account, whether or not I realize it. And most people who listen to your music are gonna be doing the same. The first criteria is composition and originality of the song. And of course, I think that's the most important because, as I've said before, it's kind of the main thing that I can help you with here on the channel and with my courses. It's kind of the seed around which everything else grows, and without it, none of this other stuff matters at all. So once you've written some awesome songs, all you've done is completed like step 0.5. It's not even really step 1 yet. Everything else is just selling the sizzle of the steak, which is your songs. You need the sizzle as much as the steak, because without the steak, the sizzle is a lie. But without the sizzle, your steak goes cold on the plate and then you gotta throw it away. Nobody's gonna eat it. The Eurovision Song Contest is a sizzle festival. People don't experience music the same way that musicians do. Like, when I hear music, I am picking it apart so much. And most people just experience the whole thing as a wash. They don't really even consider like melody and lyrics as like different things. They just have something that they sing along to because they don't know all the sort of behind the scenes stuff. So it's actually a little hard for us as musicians to be objective about the whole entire experience. I thought the winner was amazing. Switzerland absolutely crushed it. I thought that Cyprus's song was a bit better for me, but I absolutely loved this one, The Code by Nemo. It's got break beats, it's super operatic and weird and fun as hell, really dancey. If Cyprus couldn't win, and they didn't even come close. I'm very glad that it was Switzerland. They were favored from very early on. Like that spectacle. On this giant spinning top, wearing a pink skirt. It's like really cinematic and kind of epic. It sounds a little bit like a song that would be in a 007 movie, right? But with the... It's really, really good. But there are millions and millions of songs that are really good. The reason that I heard this one is because it's being sung by a man in a pink skirt on a rotating thingy on TV in front of millions of people. Without spectacle, without making a huge deal about music like this, it will largely go unnoticed. So you have to be prepared to make a big deal about yourself as a musician and not feel weird about it. Sometimes it feels really self-aggrandizing, but like, fuck, come on. Don't work so hard and write these songs and like do all the hard stuff to be in a band and make music and then not go as absolutely hard as you can on the spectacle, on the presentation, on the show. Make it fun. You don't have to have like a multi-million-dollar budget to do this kind of crazy stage show or have some kind of like real corny gimmick. It's something that's gonna be completely different for every single artist, so I can't really tell you how to do it, but you just have to understand that without all of that stuff, you've kind of only done a quarter of the job. And you know that this is true because if you buy a ticket to go see your favorite band, you expect a spectacle. You expect to get your money's worth, whatever that is. It's about making a big deal about your own music, whatever it is. The presentation is what's gonna bring people in, intrigue them, and go like, ooh, what's this? I've heard things about this band. Let's see if they're any good. That's when it's the most important that your music doesn't suck and you don't just have the sizzle and no steak, but that's why you have my courses, like Complete Rock and Metal Songwriting and how to actually write lyrics, which you can find in the description below. Music isn't actually a competition, except... But it is a very crowded space. There are hundreds of thousands of songs uploaded every day, and there are tons and tons of musicians out there. And if you're not gonna stick out in some way, then you're probably just gonna wind up getting ignored, and nobody wants that. Like, I could be shooting this video sitting in an office somewhere with no cool lights or anything, but instead, I got these awesome lights and I put them on the wall so that you have something cool to look at when I'm yelling at you. Like, it could look like this. Hey guys, today we're gonna be talking about the Eurovision Song Contest. There are 4 lights in this room that are here just to make me look good. There's one up there, there's a blue one right here, there's my key light right here, there's a fill right there, and then there's 6 of these crazy tube lights. It's not because I'm an ugly man. It's because I'm trying to present myself in the best possible way. It's kind of like tuning your guitar. That's part of the presentation. This video is not sponsored by Eurovision or anything like that, but I highly recommend that you go and watch at least one time to see the insane spectacle, the heights that people are going to present their music in a certain way. And I was very inspired by watching this show, and even though I don't have any kind of budget like this, I've got all kinds of cool ideas for stuff that I can do with my band when we put out our album later this year. The most successful artists out there aren't just writing great songs, although they also have to do that. They're also very carefully creating and curating their image and the presentation. And I don't want you to think of it like this thing that you have to do and it's a chore and it's like selling out. Oh, I gotta like put on a certain hat. Does anybody have directions to Coachella? Actually it's pronounced Coachella. Instead, we should look at it as an opportunity to further express the artistic intent behind the music. I love making music videos. I love watching music videos. I love everything about them. And part of the reason is because I feel like I get to take a song that I wrote and then sort of reverse score it. It's like if you're scoring a movie, you get the video part first and you make the music to match. And when you're making a music video, it's the other way around. You've already got the song, now you have to make the visual match the song. It's like the synchronicity of them working together creates a whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. And a music video is just one of those things. You can also think of like promo pictures. You can think of like lore for your band, like the sort of stories behind the music, the characters that you're writing about, the sort of characters within the band, you know, like everybody's got their favorite Backstreet Boy. You might think that's a silly example, but if you thought that Slayer wasn't as cool without Jeff Hanneman, it's kind of the same thing. If you think of all of this stuff as like self-promotion, you're going to hate it. But I want you to really think about how cool it is that you get the chance on all these different levels to create more intricacy and depth to your art and to yourself as an artist. The reason that we create music and release it is to connect with people and to show them who we are and to find people who are similar, who are simpatico. And the music itself is far from the only way to do that. I'm saying all of this because I want you to get the most out of the experience of being a musician on planet Earth, because it can be really great, and I want you to be successful and happy. And if you also want that, then you should watch this video right here about why you shouldn't start a band unless you have these 6 very important things. And I'll see you real soon.